everyone. It's Friday. You know what that means. It's time for Beyond the Steps. Thank you so much for joining us. I am Melissa McDaniel Grisham of Turning Point Dance Creations here with my amazing co-host, Bree Zarowski, co-founder of Apollo Performance. And we are excited to be here with our returning guest, Jess Spinner, to talk about how we can help our students better manage, navigate those changing schedules in the summer months and have some balance there, healthy balance. So we're just starting the summer and it's time for things, that have been going along since August the same way to now be totally blown up and changed. School-wise, food-wise, sleep-wise, dance-wise, performance-wise, you name it. Everything kind of gets topsy-turvy, and it is very easy to become unbalanced when you get off of your routine like that. There's a healthy way to do that, and we are very excited to have Jess with us to talk about the healthy way to navigate those changes. So without further ado, Bree, you want to introduce Jess?
Yeah, we're excited to have you back, Jess. She is a former professional dancer turned multi-certified holistic health, nutrition, and lifestyle coach for dancers. She founded The Whole Dancer in 2015 to help dancers prioritize their well-being, find peace within their bodies, feel confident in their food choices, and put their health first. Jess holds certification through the Institute for Integrative Nutrition and Precision Nutrition and has done continuing education courses with Duke University and Harvard. She's committed to staying up to date on the most recent research and finding innovative strategies to better support dancers. She also shared with us she is back in the studio teaching after some time off. So we are excited to have you back. What's up, Jess?
Not much. Thank you so much for having me. What an awesome intro.
I know. I always say, if you ever just want to feel a little bolster of confidence, come on our show and let us just read your bio. And
yeah.
You'll feel empowered to just go on about your business.
Absolutely. I love it.
What is the biggest challenge you're finding that young performance athletes and their families face in managing the dreaded summer schedule? Because I can tell you. So my kids just finished school last week. So this is the first official week of summer in our house. And, I work from home. My husband works from home. He's a real estate agent. And so we're always just on. And we don't have the kids signed up for a ton this summer because we're doing some traveling. So I'm sitting here going, what in the heck? We went from competitive soccer, gymnastics, running all days of the week to what are we going to do with these children? And how am I going to get work done?
Yeah. It's a big change. And I think that often the biggest struggle is the ups and downs in it, right? Where with a lot of dancers, they have some weeks of intensive or training or, learning choreography, and then they have weeks of nothing. So it's how do we create some structure that is actually helpful? How do we let them rest and recharge and do all of those things? And as we've said, where is the balance in all of that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, because too, tryouts are coming up pretty much for everything. So whether you're in competitive dance or soccer or you name cheerleading, you name your sport, everything's sort of happening right now too. And so I'm fighting that my brain is going, okay, let them rest, but also get ready for tryouts. Don't get rusty. You know what I mean? You want to be at your best for tryouts. So it's a constant push and pull over, the need to move and the need to do something versus the need to rest. Or are you ever fully resting? Is it better to always keep some sort of movement in your schedule? Hopefully we talk about all of that today. So Melissa, let's get started.
Yes, absolutely. Because I have a lot of questions here. I have a 16-year-old son who plays football, and me and my husband differ a lot in this because I'm okay, we got to stay on schedule. We got to do this. You need to be doing this, and in the mornings you need to be doing this, and we're not sleeping in. Nope, and we're not doing this, and we're not. Nope. You got to stay on it. And he's like, let the boy rest.
Let him rest. Let him sleep. Let him.
He should have time to go do. And I'm like, hey, we get off the schedule. We got to get back on.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh my gosh. So. And really, I talk about that socially. He's like, he needs time to, be on the game with his friends and da. How important is it to actually make time for that social space, Jess?
Yeah. I mean,
in the summer.
Yeah, I think it's huge. I really do. I think, it was good timing. I had a conversation with a dancer this week who's one of my younger clients. She's 13. And she actually said, I want to make sure that I find time to be a kid this summer. I was like,
Mm,
yes, like, because she is, right? And it's like she has had this schedule that was all day school, all night dance, competitions or conventions on the weekends, 7 days a week for weeks, and very little time to just be with friends, hanging out, doing kid things. And so I think it's really important. And I think that that's something to recognize is like what kind of schedule has your kid been in and your dancer and what will they truly benefit from in the summer. And it is exactly about a balance, right? Because if we drop it completely and we are relatively sedentary, that's going to have an impact. That's not going to feel great or could lead to injury if they then go back and have
Right.
no days of day, like days with no dance and nothing, and then they go and they have a 6 hour day of dance. Well, that's not the best approach either.
right.
Huh.
Exactly. And I have noticed that when I hate to say let him, but when we do let him go into this social space and really kind of move away from the structure, he kind of disengages from like important responsibilities. Like all of a sudden,
Hmm.
I can't remember to wash the dishes anymore because I
Right.
am just enthralled in watching YouTube and listening to
Yeah.
people whisper. Y'all know that thing kills me. So listen to people whisper thing on YouTube or whatever it is that you're doing. It's like he can't balance when he gets out of his schedule. Um,
Yeah.
so I don't know how
Is
to.
that normal, Jess? Do you think for like kids that are that active to just is that part of the process of them sort of just recentering and
I think it can be a lot, and this is something I think that's worth working on with your kids or dancers, right? Is noticing if it does become a very all or nothing thing. Like
Mhm.
because as adults, right, we can see how for some adults that can lead to not great thing, not balanced
productivity?
life
Right,
at all,
right.
right? Like where it's literally all or nothing. I'm on track with doing the things that make me feel good, or I do none of the things that make me feel good.
Mhm.
Right. So with kids, I think it's important to notice that. And if they do tend to have that swing from I either do it all or I forget everything and
Mhm.
it's too loose. And then to ask yourself what's like the minimum daily structure that we do need to maintain. And even beyond to say like, oh, I have to do these specific exercises, like a way to loosen the physical structure, I think, is to say, I'm going to do something that's active, but also, good for my well-being and or connects me with friends or family. So like I'm going to go for a walk with my family every morning. It's not like super intense exercise, but it's movement that feels good, and that will, nurture mental and physical well-being. So like
Mhm.
look for the structure points that do kind of need to stay in place,
Mhm.
like to know, okay, I have to do the chores, so I'm going to make sure I get that done in the morning. So I think working with them to say, where's your middle ground so that it
Mhm.
doesn't become an all or nothing kind of approach.
I like minimum daily activity. What is the
Yeah.
minimum daily activity in each of these
Yeah.
areas that we're going to do? I love that. Sleep. Let's talk about sleep.
Oh
Oh
Lord, I have so
my
many questions about this because
Sleep feels like the fight of a lifetime in the summer. Oh my goodness, the urge to stay up because there's no school. Oh my gosh, I don't have to get up. Should there be wiggle room on this sleep? Because you read the things, they're like, your bedtime is your bedtime, and it does not on the weekends, it doesn't need to change. And then this doesn't need to be changed. But I mean, my kid has to be up at 5 something in the morning because he has to, the
Yeah.
bell rings at school at 7:19. Like, really, are we expecting him to keep that up over the summer? So is there wiggle room on that, and how do parents ensure that their kids do get enough sleep if they do allow some flexibility?
Yeah. I'm so big on sleep. I don't remember if we've talked about this on past topics, but it's usually one of the first conversations I'll have with a new dancer who I'm working with, because so many young people are getting like 5 to 7 hours of sleep a night, and they think that that's enough. And I always will tell them, like research around teenage athletes says that even in your older teens, you might need 10 to 12 hours of sleep a night still.
Wow.
And like a lot of us are like, oh, that's how much sleep you need when you're 4 years old, right? Like that's how much sleep my daughter needs. But if you're that active, your body needs more recovery time than like an average adult who might need 8 hours of sleep a night when they're and injury risk increases if we are not getting enough sleep. So I always point that out because a lot of times that's compelling evidence for young dancers to be like, oh, okay, like maybe I do need to sleep more than 5 to 7 hours a night. And I think that the routine of sleep, it is natural that it might change in the summer to a degree because it is light later and so that impacts our circadian rhythms and sleep patterns and things like that. And so yeah, if they don't have to be up at 5 a.m. in the summer, I would say it's perfectly okay to make an adjustment there. But you should still be trying to hit 8, 9 hours even if you're not as active, and more if you're going to be more active.
Oh
And
my
you
God.
can't make sleep up, right, Jess? Because I've heard this before. Like, it's not like you can say, I'm going to get 3 hours of sleep a night, Monday through Friday, and on Saturday, I'm going to sleep for 23 of the 24 hours of the day. You can't make up sleep, right?
No, you really can't. No. And I hear that a lot too. Like, yeah, but I do sleep in on Saturdays or Sundays, right? And it's like, it doesn't, it doesn't, unfortunately, it doesn't really work that way.
So it's every day they should be getting 8 to 12 hours of sleep, depending on how active they've been.
Right.
Oh, girl, we got some work to do. I said Memorial Weekend was like okay, veg out, like do all, sleep, go to bed, like do all the things. But like I'm after 3 days of it, I'm like, okay, we need a schedule. We need to get back on routine. So I'm totally with you on that.
Just structure.
Yeah. Are there any relaxation or stress relief techniques that you recommend for better mental health for young performance athletes?
I think that a lot of times younger dancers don't have or give themselves the time to care for themselves in the ways that they really need to outside of the studio, beyond like what's obvious, adequate nourishment and water intake, right? Like those are like kind of like minimums to achieve. But it is looking for ways to get to see a physical therapist, even if you're not injured, right? Like that's the thing, is a lot of times we don't look at these things or look for outside support unless we're injured. And so like then we're looking for the thing to fix us. So it's like, what is the opportunity out there that you're perhaps not taking, that you may have the time or money available to you to go and seek out? And to create a plan around that. And that's an area of opportunity in the summer, I think, as well, is like if you during the year you don't feel like you have the time for extra yoga or stretching or meditation, or even like going for a walk is a great way to do like a moving meditation, right? And that kind of thing, and practice tuning into your thoughts and recognizing self-talk. All of the time in the summer is a good opportunity to give yourself the time to do that, to seek out the PT, to seek out the support people who you might have otherwise been like, during the year, I don't have time for this. It would be great, but I don't have time for this. And like look for those ways to support yourself when you actually do have the time.
Love that. If you're just joining, I am Bree with Apollo. This is Melissa McDaniel Grisham, and this is Beyond the Steps. So we're here talking about another fabulous topic to help young performance athletes feel their best, mind, body, and soul, inside out, head to toe. We're talking with Jess Spinner today about how we can help our students better manage changing schedules during the summer months to achieve a healthy balance. Because summer hits, it goes from 0 to 60. There's lots of great ideas in this episode. It's not too late to watch. Go back to the beginning and like, share, subscribe, do all the things, but watch from the beginning, and you can watch the full episode and all of our episodes on YouTube at Apollo Performance or TP Dance Creation. So check it out there. Jess, nutrition always seems to take a nosedive during the summer months, because, we're snacking, popsicles, ice cream, all the things. How can we prioritize healthy, nourishing meals with the natural tendency to have foods that maybe we wouldn't normally have during our, regular routine or peak training season. What's your advice for that?
I think that just like maintaining sort of minimum daily structures, it's a good idea to maintain some, staple or regular meals. Like breakfast tends to be an easier one. The only issue with that is if the kids are sleeping in until noon, and then obviously that gets thrown
Oh
off.
my God. Yeah, that's
Yeah, right, brunch. But yeah, breakfast is a good opportunity to have a meal that you know feels good for you, that you know is supportive and nourishing and nutrient dense. So that then as the day goes on, if you're out and you end up eating more snacky things for lunch, you have had this meal that you already feel confident in and you already know works for your
Yeah.
body and feels good for you. And then, like dinner, things that we do in the summer or ways that we eat in the summer with like grilling, that can certainly be very healthy and supportive as well. And I think that the key is to allow the other things in ways that, again, just feels balanced for you. So it might not actually feel great, even though sometimes it's tempting to eat something like ice cream 7 days a week. So it's like, what actually feels good for me in terms of those foods? Like, do I feel good when I have it a few times a week? Is it a one time a week kind of thing for me? And to think about those things not from a place of judgment or like rigidity, I must only have this once a week, but rather like what actually feels good for my body.
Yeah, for my son specifically, it's not so much my daughter, but my son it's getting him to eat at all because he just wants to go, and he doesn't want to stop and eat anything. And then by the time it's dinner, he's like, "Can I have lunch?" And I'm like, "Wait, you didn't want lunch. You didn't like, you know what I mean? I tried to feed you this and you left it on the table and all the things." So it's more getting him to eat, and then the other one is, is fine. So it's interesting how that works.
Yeah, I think it's again, right, trying to encourage them to maintain some structure for themselves. And it's also, I find it compelling to share the why. And it's like, this is so that you'll have more energy throughout the day. This is so that you won't crash and get hangry and start, like yelling about things because your blood sugar is low, right? It's about like really supporting yourself to feel your best, even if you're not as active as you typically are.
Yeah. And I'm going to be honest too. I mean, I'm sure I'm not the only one out there. I'm just going to keep it real. But like by the end of the school year, you're seriously just as a parent, you're like, I am over it. I am over it. I never felt it so hard than these last 2 weeks. And you get to the point where you're burned out. You're like, I'm just tired of making your lunch. I just have
right.
Make yourself a peanut butter and jelly. I don't know what to tell you. It's like you just so all the parents out there that are just hashtag over it. We got to get back on our game too.
Yeah. I mean, and there's plenty of easy things that are still nourishing. And I think that that's something to look for as well, right? Like maybe if you're not going to make them a whole lunch, I think telling them to make peanut butter and jelly is a fine option. And then maybe you also put out some, cut up fruit or veggies and hummus or something like that and have it available.
Yep. Love it. Are there any specific techniques like journaling or planners or calendars that you suggest for helping with all of this?
I think that I like to see those whiteboards, like a dry erase board. I think that can be really helpful to keep everyone on the same page as far as, again, like what are the minimums that we're going to make sure that we set out and achieve each day or each week. And that way, like I said, everyone's on the same page. If there's ever a question, you can be like, remember, it's right here on the
board that you haven't looked at.
Right. Right.
I got to get ours. When we moved and we took our whiteboards down when we moved, obviously, and we have not put them back up. They need to.
Yeah, it's a good time, right? Like, and I think that it's also, again, since a lot of kids do have some more time in the summer to actually start these kind of things, to give them support in creating their own plan for the day, like where they write it down. It could be in a planner, it could just be in a notebook, right? Whatever actually what calls to them or feels easiest. And for dancers, I'd say the biggest thing to avoid is letting it be too type A perfectionist, like I must
Mhm.
this is what I must do today, but like letting them actually take the opportunity in the summer to give themselves some leeway. And like I said, what my client had said, like be a kid, what are the fun things, all of that.
Mhm. We had a conversation with Casey Noblet a few weeks ago about training obligations in summer and like being pulled in multiple directions, because what she's finding, what we are finding, what we understand is that a lot of studio directors, teachers are like, no, there's no time off. You're going to do summer classes every day this week, and then we're going to go this intensive. We got nationals, we're going to convention, we're doing, and a lot of that can be driven sometimes by profit. Like, hey, I can't let these
Right.
students go because my retention goes down when I let them go. What advice do you give to that parent, the youth athletes, to the parents when it feels like coaches are like, no, I'm not letting you go. They're not promoting the balance, but you know your child needs that balance.
Yeah, I do think parents should try to push back. Um, I I can see both sides, and even like from a business perspective, I understand why it's a good idea to keep them coming. But it really doesn't encourage balance, and it doesn't encourage them to take the time that they probably like, they get so burnt out, honestly, like young people in who are competing and training at a high level, right? They are getting burnt out because it's like really no days off in some
Mhm.
instances. And so I think it's like encouraging the studio owners, if you're a parent, to say to them, I think that my kid at least needs some more time. So, maybe then the studio owner can provide something like, well, this is the big time schedule. If you want to come as many days a week as you were coming in the year, you can do this. Or there's this less intense schedule.
Mhm.
These weeks are optional. Like you have to give people, I think, some freedom and choice in it. And
Mhm.
that way, and encourage them rather than being one of the people who's saying things like, well, the people who come more might get more
Yeah.
opportunities, like rather than saying that, really to say, this is about you and what you want and need in the summer. And I would say it will have no bearing on the competition season or who's featured or anything like that.
See, you know what's funny is when I was a director, this would have been, years ago now, but I had the opposite problem. So I was trying to give them time off, and I
Yeah.
had parents that felt their kid wasn't doing enough compared to the other studios, and
Mhm.
they
Right.
wanted more and more and more. And if you're not going to offer it, we're going to go somewhere else and go get it. And we're going to go out of state and go get it. And we're going to go to
Yeah.
this studio's intensive and go do it there. So it was very frustrating because you do try to provide that for the kids. And then some of the parents that, have that more competitive mentality, they don't let sleeping dogs lie, if you
Right.
will.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, I do think, like I said, I think to give options is a
Yeah.
great strategy, right? Like you could have an intense option where it's almost the same as what they've been doing in the school year. And then you can
It's just
have
not
some,
mandatory for everybody.
right. Exactly. Have some
Hmm.
other less intense options, that kind of thing.
Hmm. That's interesting. So a tiered system that allows people to choose where they want to get in,
Yeah.
where they want to get in. I kind of want to go back and touch a little bit on your comment about, okay, and not having it have any bearing on competitive, standings or where you are. Like,
Yeah.
no, I totally agree with the fact that, okay, it's not like if you don't come to summer class, then we're not going to place you in X, Y, and Z. But I
Right.
also think, how would you explain, when you come and you stay consistent with your skills, you do tend to do
Yeah.
better.
It is. It's undeniable from a coaching
Right.
perspective. When you have that kid that puts in the work during the off time, I mean, insert any sport that you have. I
Yeah.
don't care what it is. You have that kid. It's undeniable the progress and the gap that is created in skill when you
Mhm.
have that kid that is staying steady. Not maybe not even studying commitment, but is doing more or doing some semblance of
Right.
training in the off season.
Yeah. I think it's for everyone involved to let the priority be, or to make the priority the mental and physical well-being first.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's like you don't want to lie about it, like, and say, oh, it'll be fine, you'll be the same as the kids who have come all summer, right? But to say to them, think about where you're at and what you really need right now. And there may be some summers where you're feeling great and you don't feel burnt out and you just want more and you just want to train more, and so you come the whole time, and that's awesome. But then there might be some summers where the end of the competition season or the training season comes and you feel so over it and you're not enjoying it and you're feeling exhausted and like you just want to think about something else. Well, then maybe you need to take some time that summer. Maybe you need to take the whole summer so that you can come back feeling mentally refreshed. Right? Because like the physical or technical advancement isn't going to get you that far if you feel awful mentally.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is important, like understanding that you can't have it all. And I think that we have gotten to a point, especially in competitive dance, where you can't have it all. You can get an award for this, an award for that, and an award for this, and an award for that, and the judges award for this, and a special award for this, and you get an award for showing up, and you get like that. We have gotten to the point where you can't have it all. And I think that it's very important that the conversation I'm hearing what I'm hearing you say is that the conversation is, hey, if it's a situation where you have to take time off, the reality is, yeah, of course you progress more when you continue to train. But if time off is what you need, then that's the priority. Like that's the trade-off. Then the trade-off is worth it. You determine whether the trade-off is worth it. And if it is, it just is. So it's not a situation where, like you said, we lie and say, yeah, you can sit at home and eat marshmallows and s'mores all day and drink, goo gobs of soda, and you're going to come back and you're going to be at the same exact level as everybody who was here. That's not going to happen. But if that's what you need to do, okay, don't drink goo gobs of soda, y'all.
And we're going to get all kinds of messages now.
If you feel like you need to not train and go home and keep a healthy nutritional balance and sleep balance instead of coming to train, then there is a trade-off, and that's perfectly okay because that's the decision that you made.
That's what I've started doing with my son. Okay, well, you do you, boo, but like this is what you're choosing, and this is the consequences of that. You make the choice. I will support you whatever you decide. So it's like, thank God so far he always makes the better decision. But yeah.
And it's important for parents to understand that too, because I do think that parents, what I get a lot from parents is, okay, we want to travel the world. We're going to go here for 2 weeks and here for 2 weeks and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. We're traveling here. We're going to see grandma and we're doing this. And so we're not going to do summer classes. Okay, great. Then when it comes time for auditions, it's like, but I don't understand. Why is my student not blah, blah, blah? Well, you wanted to go to Paris and then go see grandma and go to Disneyland. You want to do it. I get it. Your student's a great person, great dancer, wonderful. And you made the decision to have this lifestyle over the summer, which is great. Hey, I wish I had it. I can't have it because I'm here teaching the kids. So we have to understand it as adults and as students.
That's very true. Good point.
Yeah, absolutely. If you are just now tuning in, this is Beyond the Steps. I am Melissa McDaniel Grisham, and myself and my co-host Bree Zabrowski are here with Jess Spinner, and we are talking about how we can help our students better manage changing schedules during the summer months to achieve a healthy balance. It has been a great conversation so far, and I would hope that you would go back and watch it from the beginning on YouTube or on Facebook at Apollo Performance or at TP Dance Creations. But don't go over there now because we still have a lot of show left. Call somebody, text somebody, tag somebody, and let them know they need to watch the rest of this show as well. So what is your advice for prioritizing activities, Jess, when there are multiple commitments in one day? Like, oh, I'm supposed to be here.
I'm so interested to hear your response to this because I've seen this happen many times in dance in the studio environment, but also in our kids' activities as well with, other teammates,
I come from my experience as a dancer was that, and I think that there's some balance to be struck here, since I was training and stuff, right? But you had to choose, what was your priority, and if you chose dance, a lot of the time that meant you didn't also play a sport, or you weren't in all the clubs at school, or you like weren't doing all the other things. And so I do think there's a lot, I tend to see a lot more kids doing like a lot more things at a high, or attempting to do a lot more things at a high level. And I don't know that that's actually the best thing to encourage. Or it's kind of like if you want to do dance recreationally, but you want to do soccer more seriously, well, what is that balance going to look like? We're going to prioritize the soccer practice, and the dance stuff will sometimes have to fall to the wayside, or we might have to miss something.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's true with dance as well. It's like, if that's going to be your main priority, well, you might not be able to be on the soccer team if you want to work as a dancer at a high level. So I think that even in the summer, there are those days where it's a matter of choice. And I think it's hard sometimes as parents, because we want to let kids do things that they enjoy, but we do have to make choices.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. So it's the middle of the summer and your performance athlete is struggling. What do you do? Full stop? Do you cut down some more? What is your advice to, if like, hey, we're going to do this on a trial basis. We've got a couple things going on. I put you in an intensive. I'm sending you to a camp. I'm doing all these things. And you enter full meltdown mode in the middle of the summer. What's your advice at that point?
I think you have to have a conversation with them about what exactly is going on. Because like we talked about, it's very possible they were getting toward a point of burnout towards the end of the school year, and then had convinced themselves, or again, maybe it was, I need to keep going. I want to keep improving. So for whatever reason, they said, yes, I have to do the intensive. I'm going to do the intensive. And they really just might have needed a break. So I think that you have to have the conversation about where they're at, and like ask some hard questions about what they're feeling, about their experience. Sometimes, dancers just, this is a big part of my work, is the body image aspect and that support. And I think it's like being in front of the mirror nonstop for weeks and months on end can take its toll. And if we never even talk about that or what might be going on there, then that can kind of just fester, and they may have things happening in their head that they've just not been communicating to you. So I think you start with a conversation. And if there's someone who is like, I feel so exhausted by this process, or I'm not enjoying it, it just feels like a chore, it just feels hard, well, then it might be a full stop. It might be like, okay, we're gonna take the rest of the summer off, or find an in-between. Yeah.
This is totally sort of going off in a little branch here, but what is your recommendation, as a parent, as a director, to check in with your athletes? Like, how often should we be checking in? I know as a director, I tried really hard to check in with my students 3 times a year. So at the beginning of the season, the middle of the season, right before competition and started, and then at the end of the season before tryouts. And as a parent, I feel like I'm sort of adopting that same cadence in terms of when I check in. And I keep talking. I mean, I have 2 kids, but my daughter hasn't kind of leapt into that competitive mindset yet, where our son very much is involved with soccer. And so, knowing what I know from the dance space, I try to apply that to him as much as I can. And sometimes I fail miserably, and sometimes I feel like I'm doing great. But I try to check in with him a few times a year and go, how, are you having fun? Do you love this? Like, are you sure you want to do this? Do you want to try something else? And so what is your advice for people to check in with their kids? And how often?
I mean, I think you want to keep those conversations going as much as possible. I know that we get, especially depending on the age and the teenage years, right? You get very mixed responses from as far as what they're willing to share, or what they share. But I think as much as you can get them to talk about it, you get them to talk about it. With dancers, I think a lot of the time too, like things are sometimes said in a dance class, corrections, how they're presented, and it's worth trying to get more information about even like what kind of corrections did you get today? Because sometimes things are said that are misconstrued or misunderstood or interpreted in a way that's quite harmful. And I think that just like in general, keeping conversation open around the experience and how it's feeling is going to be a benefit to everyone.
And I will also add this, and just feel free to disagree with me if you think so, but I think sometimes it's worth it to have, and I'm not saying every practice, all practice, but parents go and look at what's going on in that room. Like, just because your kids hit a certain age doesn't mean you have to stop paying attention to what's happening on the day to day. Like, maybe once every couple weeks, once a week, once a month, whatever, go in and just watch a little bit of what is happening in that rehearsal, in that practice period, so that you understand A, what they're going through, B, you see for yourself things that they may not even be picking up on that are alarming, or just see how what your kids' reaction and body language is in that class or practice, right? So
Yeah,
I don't know. What do you think about that?
I agree completely.
So I feel
And
like
I,
so many times parents start checking out as their kids get older. They drop them off and
yeah,
it's like, peace, I'm going to go run errands. I'll pick you up or I'll see you at home or whatever it is. And which is fine. I think your kid has to have that independence, but also like, what do you know about what's really happening there and what are they going through? Right.
right.
Mhm.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
you should be very wary if the school where your child trains says anything about like parents not being allowed to come and watch or poke their head in the door for, yes, if the studio door is closed for some reason,
Yeah.
then maybe we can leave it closed, but it also shouldn't be closed all the time. So if the door is open, you should be allowed to go and watch from the
Yeah.
door for a
Yeah.
few minutes, like that shouldn't be any sort of imposition. And I 100% agree. It's worth it to just stay as aware as you can about what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
also think just to piggyback off that, as a director and as a teacher, we have observation windows, doors that have the blinds that are open. We also have closed circuit cameras where you can sit in the lobby and you can see what's happening
Yeah,
in a classroom. But also, there's a way to address it if you see something that you don't like. So,
yep,
one, talking to your child first to go, did I interpret that? Because I couldn't
right,
hear, or is that something that happens regularly? And then what we don't want and the worst thing you could possibly do is bust through the door and go, hey, what's happening here?
Yeah.
Like,
To be clear, we're not saying ever
right,
bust in the studio in the middle of an active class. I would highly advise against that
highly
too.
against busting in the
agreed,
door and saying X, Y, and Z, or having some type of confrontational
right,
exchange. But getting a good, I think, following up for understanding. Hey, I saw this and it concerned me.
yeah,
Child, what was it? Teacher, can you help me understand in
right,
an appropriate time period is the best way.
And I think that's a great point too. And but I was more asking more for the parent because I've noticed this a lot. The parents are like, well, my kid is, doing this and my kid isn't, in the front, or my kid isn't playing as much, or my kid isn't. Have you come to practice to watch how much is your kid putting in effort? Are we seeing signs of burnout in the class where you think your kid is just here putting 150% energy in and really they're putting in 10%, sitting down, not paying attention? Like those are going, it's going to give you additional information about how your kid is responding in this setting as well.
yeah,
So, if you're not getting it out of them at home, it's see it with your own eyes kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
definitely.
Yeah. It's great insight. Great insight. So, if you're just watching, this is Beyond the Steps. This is a show we talk about all things related to performance athletes, from racism to gender inequity, sex abuse prevention, nutrition, psychology, and of course, dance medicine and science. I'm Bree Zabrowski. My fabulous friend and co-host is with me, Melissa McDaniel Grisham. We're talking to Jess Spinner today about how we can help our students better manage changing schedules during the summer to achieve a healthy balance. One very timely to what's happening in our lives right now with school being out of session. So a great time to have this conversation. It's a good one. So go back to the beginning. If you've missed any part of this conversation, go back. You can find us on YouTube at Apollo Performance and TP Dance Creations. This episode and all of our episodes, season 1 through 4, will live there. So Melissa, let's go to homework.
Yes, homework, our favorite. Jess is an alum, so she knows how this homework deal works. We give our listeners, viewers, one piece of homework, one small thing that they can do to make progress in this area between now and our next show, which is next Friday, so the next 7 days. So Jess, what is your homework to our viewers today?
I think you want to sit down with your kids and your dancers and talk to them about those minimum daily structural things that they're going to maintain, and so like I would cover all the things that we talked about, right? What do you want your minimum daily activity to look like? What are some of the routines that you're going to maintain in the summer? What are some of the food pillars that you want to make sure to uphold throughout the summer? Because doing those things, like we said, in the time when you actually have opportunity to implement them and you're not totally crushed by all the things you have to accomplish or all the schedules you have, all the places you have to be. It gives you a good opportunity to test some things out and to just feel better in what you're doing. And then you'll probably find some things you'll be able to transfer back into the school year and back into the regular dance schedule as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That is a great piece of advice. That is definitely one that I am going to follow because I absolutely love the minimum daily schedule there. That's my new thing this summer. We also have homework. We have the same homework every single week. Hopefully you have done it. If you've already done it, let somebody else do it. It's to Take the Steps initiative. Bree has popped that across the screen at the bottom. You can use that link to get access to multiple courses that are free. Yes, free. They are free, and they are not all encompassing. They're not going to teach you everything you need to know, but they are an absolutely wonderful start. So please make sure that you go and visit that site and take advantage of those courses. Jess, how can people get in touch with you?
Oh, well, thewholedancer.com and on Instagram at thewholedancer. I have been podcasting and will be podcasting more regularly come September.
Nice.
And then they can always email me, Jess at thewholedancer.com, if they want to get in touch or if they have any specific questions.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here, Jess. We're excited just to hear everybody tune into her podcast because everything she does is amazing, but it's been wonderful to have this conversation with you and get a little bit of insight. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. This was awesome, as always.
And to all of you out there, thank you so much for watching. Please, please, please be sure to like, follow, share, subscribe, do all the things. We want to get the word out about Beyond the Steps because when you know better, you do better. We're all about sharing perspective and education and resources. We are about to close season 4. I cannot believe it. And we're already planning for season 5. So if you have a topic you want to hear us talk about in season 5 or address, or you want to be a guest on our show, or you know a guest that you'd like to see on our show, please message us, info@apolloperformance.com. Again, you can find today's episode and all of our episodes on YouTube and Facebook at Apollo Performance and TP Dance Creations. We're back next week with another fantastic episode. And until then, we hope you continue your journey beyond the steps. Everybody.